Victor Hale laughed as security held the glass door open for me. "Good luck finding another job, Daniel." A few people smirked. Someone actually clapped. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I simply walked over to the polished conference table and placed a thick white envelope beside Victor's laptop. He looked down at it. "Was this?" "My exit paperwork," I said. He snorted. "HR already handled that." "I know," I smiled, "but the second document is for you." Without another word, I picked up my backpack and followed security toward the elevator. As the doors closed, Victor called after me. "Don't expect a reference." The office laughed. 22 minutes later, Victor finally opened the envelope. Inside were only 3 sheets of paper. The first page read, "Notice of Contract Termination. Effective immediately, Sentinel Dynamics is terminating all licensing negotiations, technical support, and future partnership discussions with Apex Technologies. Any proprietary software demonstrations, pilot programs, and pending agreements are hereby withdrawn. Regards, Daniel Carter, Founder and Chief Executive Officer, Sentinel Dynamics." Victor frowned. What the hell is Sentinel Dynamics? He flipped to the second page. It was a press release scheduled for publication in exactly 8 minutes. For immediate release, Orion Financial announces strategic partnership with Sentinel Dynamics. After an extensive review of enterprise cybersecurity providers, Orion Financial has selected Sentinel Dynamics as its exclusive AI security platform for all North American operations. Victor's face lost its color. Orion Financial wasn't just another customer. It represented 62% of Apex Technologies' annual revenue. Without Orion, the company would miss its earnings targets. Its stock would fall. Its investors would panic. His bonus would disappear. He grabbed the final page. It was a photograph. 3 people stood in front of a newly unveiled company logo. In the center, Daniel Carter, smiling. Beneath the photo was a single handwritten sentence. "You didn't fire your best engineer today. You fired the founder of the company your biggest client just chose instead." Victor immediately picked up his phone. 1 call, no answer. A second call, voicemail. 5 more calls, still nothing. By the time he reached the 38th call, the press release had gone live, and the first email from the board of directors appeared in his inbox. Subject: Emergency Executive Meeting. Effective immediately. By the time I reached the parking garage, my phone had already started vibrating. 3 missed calls, then 5, then 9. Not from friends, not from family, from people inside Apex Technologies. People who hadn't spoken to me in months suddenly wanted to know if I was okay. I didn't answer. For 7 years, I had answered every late-night emergency, every quick question, every weekend deployment, every impossible deadline. Today, someone else could fix their problems. I placed my laptop in the trunk of my car and finally looked up at the 23-story glass building where I'd spent nearly a decade. I expected to feel angry. Instead, I felt strangely free, because the truth was, I hadn't depended on Apex Technologies for a very long time. 3 years earlier, the first crack appeared during another executive meeting. I had spent 4 months building an artificial intelligence system capable of detecting ransomware attacks before they spread through a corporate network. It wasn't just another cybersecurity tool. It could predict attack patterns by learning from millions of encrypted events in real time. When I demonstrated the prototype, the room went silent. Victor Hale leaned back in his chair. "Interesting." That was all he said. The following week, the project was presented to investors, without me. My diagrams were still there. My research was still there.
Even my code was running on the demonstration servers. Only one thing had changed. Victor's name appeared where mine should have been. When investors applauded, he thanked them for appreciating his team's innovation. My team, not me. That evening, I sat alone in my apartment, staring at the city skyline. I wasn't angry anymore. I was tired. Tired of building someone else's reputation. 2 days later, I received an unexpected phone call. "Daniel?" The voice belonged to Maya Chen. We had worked together years earlier, before she left Apex. She was one of the smartest machine learning engineers I'd ever met. I heard what happened. News traveled quickly inside the tech industry. "You deserved better." I laughed. "So I've been told." There was a brief silence. Then she asked a question that changed my life. "What would you build if nobody could take credit for it?" That question stayed with me for weeks. Eventually, I called her back. "I've been thinking." "So have I," she replied. A month later, we met inside a tiny coffee shop nearly 40 miles from the office. Not because we were paranoid, because we understood corporate politics. One person meeting after work, 2 people became gossip. 3 people became a rumor. We didn't need rumors. Maya arrived carrying a laptop covered in airline stickers. 10 minutes later, a third chair scraped across the floor. Ethan Brooks, former network architect. He had resigned from Apex after Victor's one executives blamed him for a server outage caused by budget cuts. 3 people, 3 laptops, 3 careers that had quietly hit the same wall. Nobody talked about revenge. Nobody complained about Victor. Instead, we asked ourselves one question. What if we built the company we always wished we worked for? Every evening after work, we met again. Sometimes in coffee shops, sometimes in libraries, sometimes in empty conference rooms rented for the hour. For nearly 18 months, nobody knew. By day, I designed software for Apex. By night, I built Sentinel Dynamics. The first version wasn't glamorous. Our office was Maya's garage. The server rack stood beside lawn equipment. Extension cords ran across the floor. Half the furniture came from thrift stores. The coffee machine leaked constantly. But every line of code belonged to us. No politics, no stolen presentations, no executives claiming our work. Only builders. Money became a problem quickly. Our savings disappeared. Credit cards filled up. Ethan sold his motorcycle. Maya refinanced her condo. I canceled every vacation I'd planned for 3 years. Friends assumed I had become obsessed with work. They weren't wrong. One Friday evening, I looked around the garage. Rain leaked through one corner of the roof. 3 exhausted people stared at computer screens. Maya rubbed her eyes. "I don't know how much longer we can do this." Nobody answered, because everyone had been thinking the same thing. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. Normally, I ignored those calls. For some reason, I answered. "Daniel Carter? Speaking? My name is Laura Simmons. I manage technology investments for Horizon Ventures." My heart stopped. She continued. "We've spent 6 weeks evaluating Sentinel Dynamics. We'd like to schedule a meeting." I nearly dropped the phone. We never contacted Horizon Ventures. They found us. Someone had been talking about our software. The following Tuesday, we walked into one of the tallest office buildings in the city, wearing the only suits we owned. Mine still had a missing button. Maya whispered, "If this goes badly, we still have the garage." I smiled. "If it goes well, we'll need a bigger garage." The meeting lasted 4 hours, not because investors doubted us, because they couldn't stop asking questions. By the end, Laura closed her notebook. "I've invested in cybersecurity companies for 16 years. This is the first platform I've seen that predicts attacks before they happen." She looked directly at me. "Who owns the intellectual property?" "I do." "And your current employer knows?" "No." She nodded. "Good." 6 weeks later, Sentinel Dynamics received its first major investment, $5 million, enough to rent an office, enough to hire engineers, enough to stop wondering whether we could afford electricity. I still didn't resign, not yet. People often imagine success happens overnight. It doesn't. Building a company is terrifying. There are payrolls, laws, taxes, customers, failures. Some nights I worked until 3 in the morning at Sentinel, then arrived at Apex by 8. For almost 2 years, I lived on coffee and determination. Meanwhile, Victor never noticed. He still believed I was just another employee, another quiet engineer, another replaceable name on an organizational chart. That assumption would become the most expensive mistake of his career. Everything changed because of Orion Financial. At first, they only wanted a demonstration.
Their cybersecurity director had heard rumors about a startup developing predictive AI defense. They invited us to present. We expected 30 minutes. The meeting lasted nearly 5 hours. Every technical question became another opportunity to show what our platform could do. By the end, their chief technology officer leaned back in his chair. I've never seen anything like this. Negotiations continued for months. Lawyers reviewed contracts, engineers tested systems, executives evaluated risks. Nobody at Apex knew. Why would they? Large companies assume innovation only happens inside other large companies. They rarely look at small competitors until it's too late. One afternoon, Laura called me. They've made their decision. I held my breath. Congratulations. Orion Financial has selected Sentinel Dynamics as its exclusive cybersecurity partner. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Maya burst into tears. Ethan laughed so hard he nearly fell out of his chair. We had done it. 3 people, 1 garage, 1 impossible dream. Now we had landed one of the largest financial institutions in the country. That evening, we celebrated with takeout pizza. Not champagne, not luxury restaurants. Pizza. Because that's what we'd eaten when we had nothing. Some traditions deserve to survive success. The following morning, I walked into Apex Technologies exactly as I had every weekday for 7 years. Same car parking, same security guard, same elevator. Nobody realized I had just signed the biggest contract of my life. Victor passed me in the hallway. "Morning, Daniel." He didn't even slow down. I smiled. "Morning." If he had looked a little closer, he might have noticed something different. Not confidence, peace. The peace that comes from knowing your future no longer depends on someone else's opinion. 3 weeks later, Victor called an emergency executive meeting. Sales numbers were falling. A major client was reviewing vendors. Everyone looked nervous. Only I knew the truth. That major client wasn't reviewing vendors anymore. They'd already chosen one. Us. Then came the day everything exploded. Victor stormed into the engineering department holding a printed report. "This security failure is unacceptable." He pointed directly at me. "I'm done protecting you." The room went silent. "You are finished here." Security was called, and the rest you already know. Back in the present, Victor sat alone in his office. The envelope lay open on his desk. His hands trembled as he reached for the phone. He dialed Orion Financial's chief technology officer. The call connected. "David?" Victor forced a laugh. "I think there's been a misunderstanding. We just received a letter from some company called Sentinel Dynamics." There was a pause. Then David answered calmly. No confusion. "What?" "We signed with Sentinel yesterday." Victor's smile disappeared. "Yesterday?" "Yes. You never gave us a chance to renegotiate." "We did." "When?" "For 6 months."
Victor swallowed hard. "We've been partners for 12 years." "I know. So why leave now?" Another pause, then the answer. "Because the engineer who designed every security solution we praised over the last 7 years works for Sentinel." Victor's face turned white. "What engineer?" David sounded genuinely surprised. "Daniel Carter. He founded the company." The line went silent. Victor slowly lowered the phone. Then, for the first time, he realized he hadn't fired a replaceable employee. He had just declared war on the man holding the future of his company. For the first time in 12 years, Victor Hale wasn't the one giving orders. He was the one begging for answers. The emergency board meeting had lasted nearly 6 hours. No one raised their voice. No one needed to. The silence inside the executive conference room was louder than any argument. On the massive screen at the front of the room were 3 numbers: 62%, $480 million, minus 31%. 62% of Apex Technologies' annual revenue depended on Orion Financial. $480 million in future contracts had disappeared overnight. The company's stock had already fallen 31% since the market opened, and trading hadn't even closed yet. Nobody looked at Victor. They didn't have to. Everyone already knew who was responsible. The chairman finally spoke. "Explain." Victor adjusted his tie. "There has been a misunderstanding." One board member leaned forward. "A misunderstanding? You fired the engineer who founded the company that just took our largest client." Victor swallowed. "We didn't know." The chairman's expression never changed. "You didn't know because you never bothered to ask." 3 days later, things became worse. Another client announced it was reviewing strategic alternatives, then another, then another. News spread faster than anyone expected. Industry blogs published headlines: "The engineer who built Apex's security platform starts rival company." "Orion chooses former employee over industry giant." "Who is Daniel Carter?" Journalists wanted interviews. Investors wanted explanations. Employees wanted reassurance. Victor had none to give. Meanwhile, life inside Sentinel Dynamics couldn't have been more different. The office buzzed with excitement. Engineers celebrated the Orion launch. Recruiters struggled to keep up with job applications. Our inbox filled with partnership requests. For the first time in years, people wanted to work with us. Not because we were famous, because we had earned their respect. Late Friday afternoon, Laura called into my office carrying a tablet. "You should see this." I looked up. "What happened?" She turned the screen toward me. LinkedIn. Dozens of familiar faces, former co-workers from Apex. Every one of them had updated their profiles, open to work. Some already applied to Sentinel. Others simply sent messages. One read, "I should have left when you did." Another said, "You were right about Victor." I closed the tablet. "I don't want revenge hires." Maya nodded. "I know. So we'll interview everyone the same way. No favorites, no grudges, only talent." That was exactly how we'd promised to build this company. Monday morning, my assistant knocked on my office door. "You have a visitor." "I don't remember scheduling anyone." "You didn't. Who is it?" She hesitated. "Victor Hale." The room became quiet. Maya looked at Ethan. Ethan looked at me. No one spoke. Finally, I stood. "Show him in." Victor entered wearing the same tailored navy suit he'd worn during investor presentations.
except it didn't fit him the same anymore. His shoulders were slumped. Dark circles framed his eyes. For the first time since I'd met him, he looked tired. Not physically, professionally. He glanced around the office. Glass walls, open workspaces, engineers laughing together. No executive offices hidden behind locked doors. "This is impressive." "Thank you." Neither of us sat immediately. Finally, Victor spoke. "I owe you an apology." I waited. Nothing followed. He seemed surprised that I hadn't accepted it. "I shouldn't have fired you." Still, I said nothing. "I was under pressure." Silence. "The board expected results." Silence. "Our investors wanted growth." Silence. Victor shifted uncomfortably. "Aren't you going to say something?" I finally smiled. "You apologized for firing me." "Yes." "You didn't apologize for taking credit for my work." Victor looked away. "You didn't apologize for ignoring my reports." Silence. "You didn't apologize for calling security before asking a single question." His jaw tightened. "And you definitely didn't apologize for spending 7 years convincing everyone I was replaceable." The room became painfully quiet. Victor took a deep breath. "What do you want?" It was an interesting question.
Because he assumed I wanted something. Money, recognition, power. I wanted none of those from him. I already have everything I worked for. His eyes narrowed. Then why meet with me? Because you asked. He reached into his leather briefcase, removed a thick folder, slid it across the table. Name your price. I didn't touch it. Open it. Inside, there were numbers, lots of numbers. Salary, bonuses, stock options, a seat on the executive leadership team, guaranteed succession planning. By the last page, the offer exceeded $12 million over 5 years. Victor leaned back confidently. I don't think any engineer in this country has ever received an offer like that. I closed the folder. I agree. His smile returned. So? I pushed the folder back across the table. No. Victor blinked. I'm sorry? No. You haven't heard the full offer. I don't need to. He frowned. You'd turn down $12 million? I already did. When? The day I founded Sentinel. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then Victor tried another approach. What if we acquire Sentinel? I laughed softly. You can't afford us. His expression hardened. We're still larger than you. For now. Victor leaned forward. This isn't personal. I looked him directly in the eyes. It stopped being personal the moment you made it professional. He lowered his voice. The board is considering replacing me. I said nothing. If Orion doesn't come back, they won't. If our stock falls again, it probably will. If we lose another major client, you might. Victor finally asked the only honest question he'd asked all afternoon. What do I do? For a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Then I remembered every presentation where my name disappeared. Every weekend I'd spent fixing problems while someone else accepted awards. Every performance review
where I'd been told to be more visible. Every employee who had quietly resigned because speaking up wasn't worth the cost. I looked at him calmly. "You start by telling the truth." His face frowned. "What truth?" "The board deserves to know why people are leaving. Our employees deserve to know why morale collapsed. Our customers deserve to know why innovation stopped. And you deserve to admit that you confused authority with leadership." His face hardened. "So this is revenge?" "No, this is accountability." "Same thing?" "No." I stood. "Revenge would be enjoying your failure. I'm simply refusing to rescue you from it." Slowly, Victor collected the folder. Before leaving, he stopped beside the office door. "You underestimated me." "I know. You won't make that mistake again." I smiled politely. "You probably won't get another chance." He walked away without another word. The following morning, every major business news outlet carried the same headline: "Apex CEO faces board investigation." By noon, the stock had fallen another 12%. At 2 o'clock, rumors spread that several senior executives were preparing to resign. By 4, recruiters from Sentinel had received more than 300 applications. Then, at exactly 5:17 p.m., my phone rang. It wasn't Victor. It was someone much more important. The caller ID read, "Chairman, Apex Technologies Board of Directors." I stared at the screen for several seconds. Maya looked up. "You going to answer?" I took a slow breath, then pressed accept. "Mr. Carter." The chairman's voice was calm. "I believe it's time we had a conversation." 6 months after I was escorted out of Apex Technologies, my assistant knocked softly on my office door. "Daniel?" I looked up from my laptop. "Yes?" She hesitated. "There's someone here asking for an interview." I smiled. "That's what our recruiting department is for." "They specifically asked to meet you." I frowned. "Who?" She slid a resume across my desk. I looked at the name. For several seconds, I didn't move. Then, I quietly closed my laptop. "Send him in." A minute later, the office door opened. Victor Hale stepped inside. He wasn't wearing the expensive tailored suits I'd seen for years. Instead, he wore a simple charcoal jacket that looked slightly too large. No assistant followed him. No executives. No security. Just Victor. For the first time I'd met him, he looked like an ordinary man. "Good morning, Daniel." "Good morning." Neither of us sat immediately. The silence felt strangely familiar. Only this time, I wasn't the one standing in front of his desk. I gestured toward the chair. "Please." Victor sat carefully. His eyes wandered across the office. The walls displayed photographs of Sentinel's newest projects, employee celebrations, hackathon trophies, volunteer events. There were no pictures of executives, only teams. He noticed. "You don't keep pictures of yourself." I smiled. "I've never believed companies are built by one person." He nodded slowly. "I understand that now." I opened the resume. It was surprisingly short. After 12 years as CEO, there wasn't much else. Education, management experience, board memberships. No technical certifications, no recent training, no references. The section titled Reason for Leaving contained only 3 words: Board Restructuring. I assume you know this interview isn't a formality. I do. You'll be evaluated the same way every other applicant is. I expect nothing less. That answer surprised me. The old Victor would have demanded special treatment. This Victor sounded almost relieved. So, I folded my hands. Why Sentinel? Victor didn't answer immediately. Finally, he looked directly at me. Because this is the kind of company I should have built. The room fell quiet. He continued. I spent years believing leadership meant having the answers. I thought authority earned respect. I thought fear created discipline. He smiled bitterly. It turns out, people only stayed because they needed a paycheck. I watched him carefully. His voice was different, not rehearsed, not defensive, just tired. I've had 6 months to think. I've replayed that meeting 1,000 times. The day I fired you. I always remembered what I said, but I never remembered your face. He looked down. Until after the board removed me. I requested the security footage. That surprised me. I watched the recording. You never argued. You never raised your voice. You didn't insult me. You simply left. He looked back up. I realized something. What? You'd already moved on. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then I asked the question that mattered. If I hired you, what would be different? Victor answered immediately. I'd never ask anyone to earn respect twice. I leaned back. Interesting answer.
It's the truth. I closed the resume. Victor, do you know why we don't have executive parking spaces? He shook his head. Because everyone walks through the same front door. Do you know why our engineers present directly to clients? No. Because the people doing the work deserve to explain it. Do you know why every project page lists every contributor? He smiled faintly. I think I know. I nodded. Recognition isn't expensive. Disrespect is. Victor lowered his eyes. I learned that too late. For the next hour, we talked. Not about Orion, not about stock prices, not about investors. Instead, we talked about mistakes. The employees we'd both lost, the people who deserved promotions, the engineers who quietly resigned, the managers who stopped speaking honestly because disagreement became dangerous. Then I asked one final question. If I offered you this job, what would you expect? Victor looked confused. I don't understand. What position do you think you're interviewing for? He hesitated. Management? I smiled. No. He looked genuinely surprised. Our operations department has an opening. For a project coordinator. He waited. No executive authority, no direct reports. You'd report to someone 15 years younger than you. You'd attend leadership training. You'd complete the same onboarding program every employee completes. I let the words settle. Interested? Victor looked down at the resume in his hands. 6 months earlier, he had commanded thousands of employees. Now,
The only position I was willing to consider placed him at the bottom of the management ladder. He remained silent for nearly 30 seconds. Finally, he asked quietly, "Is this a test?" "No, it's the job." He nodded slowly. "I'll take it." That answer surprised me. Not because he accepted, because he didn't negotiate. "I have one condition." I raised an eyebrow. "You don't tell anyone who I used to be." I couldn't help smiling. "Why?" "Because I'd rather earn their respect than inherit it." For the first time, I believed him. 3 months later, Victor became one of the most punctual employees in the company. He listened more than he spoke. He attended every training session. When junior engineers presented ideas, he took notes. He gave credit publicly. When mistakes happened, he accepted responsibility before asking for explanations. People liked working with him. Most had no idea he had once been the CEO of the company Sentinel had replaced. One afternoon, a young intern accidentally spilled coffee across several project documents. The intern looked terrified. Victor immediately stood. "It's all right. We'll print new copies." The intern apologized repeatedly. Victor smiled. "I've made much bigger mistakes." Watching from across the office, Maya laughed softly. "You think he remembers?" "Every day." A year after Apex Technologies officially dissolved, Sentinel Dynamics opened its new global headquarters. More than half the engineers inside the building had once worked somewhere Victor had managed. The difference? No one feared walking into work anymore. At the ribbon-cutting ceremony, a journalist approached me. "Daniel, do you ever regret not buying Apex?" I looked back at the crowd. Former Apex employees laughed together. Families toured the new building. Children ran through the lobby wearing tiny Sentinel t-shirts. I smiled. "No." "Why not?" "Because I never wanted their company. I wanted a better one." The reporter nodded. "And Victor Hale?" I looked toward the far end of the room. Victor was helping new hires assemble welcome packages. No cameras, no speeches, no spotlight. Exactly where he wanted to be. He finally found something he never had before. "What's that?" "The chance to earn respect instead of demanding it." That evening, as everyone left the celebration, Victor stopped beside my office. "Daniel?" "Yeah?" He hesitated. "Thank you." "For the job?" He smiled. "No. For giving me the opportunity to become someone I'd actually want to work for." After he left, I stood by the window overlooking the city. 7 years at Apex taught me how easily talent can be overlooked. But Sentinel taught me something even more valuable. Success isn't measured by how many people work for you. It's measured by how many people grow because they worked with you. The day Victor fired me, he thought he was ending my career. In reality, he had given me the final reason to stop building someone else's future and fully commit to my own. Sometimes revenge isn't about making someone lose everything. Sometimes it's about building something so honest, so successful, and so healthy that even the person who once underestimated you wishes they had learned your way sooner.